I want to talk Manchester United with you, Dean. They've been linked with Gyökeres from Sporting. Would he be the answer for them?
I think he could be. I think he's probably one of the best I've seen since Didier Drogba in terms of leading the line as a lone striker. It's such a difficult role. It's really changed over the last decade or so of what's required of you as an out-and-out striker on your own. Goals maybe haven't been as important to a lot of teams that play with that player. That player, has to create space for the wide players to be the threat. But what he brings is this incredible physicality, ridiculous work ethic, developed his game at Coventry, which I saw signs of him leading the line so well with a team that wasn't at the top of the league, by the way. And then he's gone to Portugal and he's been sensational. And he's at that age where he's just really starting to understand that role, probably now feels the stature that you maybe need to go to a club like Manchester United where the expectation is so big. I honestly think it could be perfect in terms of what they require from that player. I think he's one of the best, certainly in Europe, at leading the line on his own.
Is there a worry, though, because he's never played in the Premier League, that it might not be the place for him?
No, I don't think so. I think he's played in England. The Championship is no easy league to play in, and the requirements physically for that league that you've got to go through. So I don't, and I think the development and how quickly he's developing, and more probably still to come, I don't see why you wouldn't just look at him, and I'm surprised there's not more clubs that are clamouring to get his signature, because I think he's only going to get better. And that position in particular now requires a certain talent to lead the line, I think, anyway.
Dharmesh, when he played for Coventry, you could have got him for £21 million. Why didn't clubs come in? Is it just snobbishness?
I wouldn't say snobbishness, but how many top Premier League clubs actually go to the Championship and recruit? That's my point. Sometimes you'll find that they would want that player, if they're keeping an eye on them, they almost take that calculated risk. We'll have to pay a little bit more, but we're going to need to see a little bit more, because the Championship might not be enough for him to make that jump to a top Premier League team and into the Champions League. It's the Portuguese league, number one. His record has been incredible, but also you've got to remember that he was scoring goals in the Champions League, scored a hat-trick against Manchester City as well in the Champions League last season. So he has shown that he can do it at that level. And if you're looking at United in particular, clearly Ruben Amorim is a huge admirer of him. He's worked under Amorim before. He knows that formation. So for United, you're asking Dean the question, is he the answer? I mean, United have got a lot of work to do in all areas of the pitch, but if he wants to play in that formation and continue with that formation, and we've got no reason to believe that he won't, because he's very stubborn in that formation, is Amorim, you would think that someone like Viktor Gyokeres would be absolutely perfect, because he knows the manager and he knows that formation back to front. So it would be a fantastic signing if United can get it over the line. There was all this talk about he wanted to play Champions League football. Ruben Amorim was very, very pointed in one of his news conferences when he said, I only want players who want to play for Manchester United. It doesn't matter if we've got European football or not. If players are saying, I want to move to a Champions League club, I don't want that player to come to United. And I think he meant that regardless of whether United were in European football or not. He wanted them to come because it's Manchester United. So it'll be a test now of United's pull. But I just wonder whether the likes of Cunha and possibly Brian Mbeumo coming as well, whether that kind of signing can attract a player. I don't know if Dean's got a comment on that. When you see, if you're 50-50 about joining a club and then you see the kind of recruitment a club is making, you think, oh, right, they're going somewhere here. I want to be part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's normally one of the first questions you ask when you go and see the club and the manager is what are your ideas? Certainly as a slightly arrogant striker, you want to know who is going to supply you, and whether you're looking to bring in other players, or is it going to be the players that are currently there? I mean, there are so many other facets that you think about when you're making a move, but as a striker, certainly, I think it is more of a draw to any player if you're seeing an Mbeumo being signed and a Cunha and those creative players, and the club are looking to improve massively as well with that.
Do Manchester United still have that pull?
I think they do, of course, yeah, because of the history of the club. And also, you don't know whether any of these players have grown up and when they've watched English football, Manchester United have been their side. And ultimately, they can still pay the big money. And, I'm not ashamed to say it, that you think of those things. If you've got two clubs looking at you and one of those is offering you a lot more money, an extra year, maybe guaranteeing you that you're going to start games, those things are important to a player still.
Should be said here, United have made initial contacts via intermediaries over Viktor Gyökeres. So there hasn't been any club-to-club contact as far as we're aware at this stage. And a lot of people are saying, how can they afford Cunha, who's already at the club, Mbeumo, who is going to cost the thick end of £60 million as well, and Viktor Gyökeres, who's going to cost over £60 million as well. Well, I don't think Manchester United, despite all their financial and much publicised financial issues, are going into a transfer window with £0 to spend. They will have a certain budget, which we understand to be covered by Cunha and Mbeumo, and then maybe they will have to make sales to be able to fund a deal for someone like Gyökeres. But if you look at the players that they're signing in Cunha and Mbeumo, is that almost a message as well to the current players who are there, who could have played in the number 10 positions? Rashford, Sancho, Anthony, Garnacho, thanks, but we're going to listen to offers for you. And I'm sure United are expecting offers for these players to be able to fund the rest of their window.
Carve, what are the optics on this? A lot of people who work behind the scenes at United have lost their jobs, and yet they're going in for these players. What does it look like to you, that?
Very good question. I think the thing, though, is that with football clubs, especially clubs as big as Manchester United, they need to sign players. It's part of their business model. They've got to invest in the transfer market. It's what they do. They need players to put on the pitch to win things. So if I was somebody who worked at Manchester United and I'd been made redundant after I'd worked there for decades and decades and decades, yes, I would have mixed feelings this summer when I see that they are spending millions and millions of pounds on new players. But that is the way the modern football business works. I think Ineos have gone into Manchester United and brought in management consultants, and they've been told that, look, these are the cuts you can make going forward. The club needs to be much more efficient, and to do that, we have to make these people redundant. It's really sad what's happening at Manchester United and what's been happening there for a long time. But Ineos feel they have a plan to make things better. It's going to take time. It's not going to take just one window, but they believe that they're on the right track. And if you're a United fan, I suppose you've got no option but to put your faith in them.
Dean, how long has Amorim got, do you think, to turn things around?
I think a lot does depend on the recruitment, the ins and outs, because it's clear that he's trying to fight against certain players being at the club and wanting to change that playing squad to suit his style. And he's been so clear about that. He's even said in interviews that the ownership knew that this was the way I wanted to play and I am not going to deviate from that. Well, if the ownership believe in him, then they try and give him the players that will suit that system. Then if we all see that and we see the players that have come in that he can use in that system, then, after 3 or 4 months, if you're seeing nothing at all when you've spent that money and helped the manager, then of course the pressure's going to be on because of the expectation of the football club, and he'll know that though.
Window remains as busy as ever, with tomorrow's 7 p.m. deadline looming large. Manchester United have already secured the signing of Matheus Cunha from Wolves, but could 2 more big attacking options follow him to Old Trafford? Well, James Savandra is with me now, so let's start with it. What's the latest on Viktor Gyokeres? Is he going to Old Trafford?
Well, we're a long way away from that happening, but an initial approach has been made from Manchester United for Viktor Gyökeres through intermediaries. That's what we've been told. United exploring the conditions around a potential deal. Ruben Amorim, of course, a huge fan of the player. He managed him for just over a season at Sporting. 66 goals he scored for Ruben Amorim. He's got 97 in 102 appearances for Sporting. We understand he's got a gentleman's agreement to leave Sporting this summer for offers above £58 million, 70 million euros. He does have a release clause around £84 million, but we understand bids around 70 million euros could be enough for a transfer this summer. Now, United are in the market for a striker this summer, regardless of the situation around Rasmus Højlund. He spoke over the weekend and said he's not considering leaving. He's going to fight for his place. He's got a long contract at the club. He's not looking to leave. United have a number of options they're looking at in that number 9 position, but an initial approach has been made to try to sign Viktor Gyökeres, and that would be a huge signing for Manchester United, because it was thought that he'd want to play Champions League football next season. Well, he won't even get European football at Manchester United, but it seems that pulling power at United is still there. A lot of people will ask when we talk about Manchester United, how are they affording to sign the likes of Matheus Cunha, Bryan Mbeumo and Viktor Gyökeres in the same window, considering where they finished in the Premier League, considering they've got no European football? Well, clearly there is going to be a big focus on departures at United as well this summer. Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho, Anthony, Alejandro Garnacho. Offers are expected for those players. Nothing formal at this moment in time, but United are looking for permanent sales in this window to help them restructure and evolve this squad, which is in need of real repair for United to get back to the position where they're fighting for major honours again.
Yeah.
Alexander-Arnold has been facing the media today for the first time as a Real Madrid player. The England defender said he can't wait to get started following his move from Liverpool and insists the expectations are to win the Club World Cup. He could make his Real debut against Al Hilal next week in their opening match of the tournament. Well, let's get more. Vinny O'Connor was at that news conference, joins us live now from Madrid. Vinny, how impressed were you with Trent, with the world's media there today?
Yeah, it was, Joe. I thought he handled it really well. He looked pretty calm when he came into this media room a short while ago and conducted that news conference, and he gave the impression of someone very excited to be a Real Madrid player. Of course, he said that he'd waited a long time for this moment. What he actually meant was that it's been 2 weeks that it's been in the waiting for him to be presented here at Real Madrid's training centre, and therefore he was just really chomping at the bit to get going. He's still to meet his teammates, or the majority of his teammates. He'll get that opportunity tomorrow as well when he trains under Xabi Alonso, and he spoke about Xabi Alonso. What a privilege it will be to work under him, because of course, as a Liverpool fan back in 2005, Trent Alexander-Arnold knows about what happened in Istanbul. Xabi Alonso very much a big part of that, and Trent Alexander-Arnold spoke about the fact that his game has been so influenced by Xabi Alonso, watching him as a youngster, watching his range of passing, and something in essence I suppose that Trent has been able to model in his game when you look at his range of passing. And we saw highlights of that as well in an introductory video, because before he came into this media room, of course, he was introduced by Florentino Perez, the Real Madrid president. That was in front of his partner Estelle, his parents, his brothers as well, and the gathered dignitaries. And then it was up to Trent Alexander-Arnold himself to give a speech, his first speech as a Real Madrid player, which he conducted in fluent Spanish.
Fichar por un club como Real Madrid no sucede todos los días.
This doesn't happen every day.
Sueño hecho realidad.
It's a dream come true.
Estoy muy feliz y orgulloso de estar
I'm very
aquí.
happy and proud to be here.
Tengo muchas ganas de enseñarle mi juego a los madridistas.
Hi Trent, Vinny from Sky Sports. Well done on the Spanish, by the way. How long have you been learning?
A few months.
We see your emotions on the final day of the season with Liverpool. How do you contrast them with the emotions that you're going through today? And also, as you've spoken about wanting to win the Ballon d'Or in the past, how much was that a motivating factor in your decision to come here? And is that the ultimate ambition for you, or is it all about La Liga and winning Champions League as well?
Look, I think no, I don't think it influenced my decision to come here at all, to be honest. I think, you joining a club like this with the teammates that I've now joined, it's going to be quite hard to run on board with the amount of superstars we've got in this team. But no, it's exciting. It is the kind of players I want to play with. I've admired them, I've played against them, and how good they are. To be a part of the team and to be playing with them rather than against them will be good.
And Vinny, Trent did speak in more detail about how tough it was to leave Anfield. Just tell us a bit more about that and what he had to say.
Yes, I don't think that's too much of a surprise for someone who's been associated with the club for 20 years. Remember, he joined the academy as a 6-year-old. We actually saw in that highlights video of his career to date some of his performances for the academy as well, and just how he's grown as a player, his ability, not just defensively, but in front of goal and his range of passing that I mentioned as well. And we saw, of course, his emotion on that final day of the season at Anfield and the tears that started running in front of the Kop as well. And I say, given that association, you can understand why it was difficult for Trent Alexander-Arnold to leave, particularly, as he put it today, that he achieved everything that he wanted to. And you look at it, a European Cup, 2 Premier League titles, an FA Cup, 2 League Cups, of course, a Club World Cup, and a European Super Cup on top of that as well. But he certainly gave the impression today of someone who's happy with the decision that he's made, because he felt that the time was right to make this move.
I think I've probably known it for a long time, is that if I was to ever leave Liverpool, it would only be to go to Real Madrid. That would be the only club for me. And then, you know, it gets to a point where you've got to make a decision whether to go or to stay. And, you know, making that decision, you know, it wasn't an easy decision. I'm not going to say it was easy, because I've been there so long, been a part of it. But eventually, you know, you have to make a decision, and in my mind I've made the right one, and it's one that I'm very excited about.
What he also said was that he was very appreciative of the send-off that he received from Liverpool. He actually spoke to the owners, and they said that he's welcome back at Liverpool at any time. And you will have noticed today that he will take the number 12 shirt here at Real Madrid, and he will have Trent on the back. He explained that. He seemed to feel that people in Europe get a bit confused by the Alexander-Arnold name, so it's a lot more simple if he is just referred to as Trent. And now, as his Real Madrid career gets underway, he's gearing up for that Club World Cup, which he believes and feels that Madrid can go on a win. Certainly that's the ambition, at least, from this squad.
It's the interview that's got everyone talking. Thomas Tuchel said his own mother thinks Jude Bellingham's on-pitch temperament can be a bit repulsive, but insists the midfielder is special.
Yeah, the Real Madrid midfielder was frustrated at the end of Tuesday's defeat to Senegal, confronted the referee and was seen kicking a cool box as he left the field. Well, speaking to TalkSport, this is what Thomas Tuchel said. He has a certain something and brings an edge. It's needed if we want to achieve big things. It needs to be channeled towards the opponent and towards our goal, and not to intimidate teammates. He has the fire. I don't want to dim this down, but the fire comes with some attributes that can intimidate you. Sometimes you see the explosion towards referees and the anger. That edge is hard to find. If he smiles, he wins everyone. But sometimes you see the rage, the hunger and the fire, and it comes out in a way that can be a bit repulsive, for example, for my mother when she sits in front of the TV. I see that, but in general, we are very happy to have him. He's a special boy.
I think a little bit of that has been lost in translation. I don't think Tuchel meant it as strongly as that comes across in English. I think he was trying to say that, look, when people from the outside who don't know Jude Bellingham and his absolute desire to win see him looking very, very angry on a football pitch, or angry towards the officials, or angry towards his teammates, or squaring up to Gareth Southgate, as he did in the final of the Euros when he felt the tactics weren't right. When some people see that, they might misconstrue it and think it's a negative. But from Thomas Tuchel's point of view, it's very much a positive, but it has to be channeled in the right way. And that's another big challenge for the England manager going forward.
Well, as we've already seen, Tuchel's comments are all over the back pages this morning.
They certainly are. In the interview, it was put to Tuchel that some fans think England would be better off without Bellingham, and that surprised our Back Pages Tonight panel.
I'd love to meet one of those people. I mean, blimey. I cannot get my head around that, why England will be better off without one of the very best players in the world, an absolute national treasure and someone I absolutely adore watching. But, you know, I just can't really get my head around that sort of kind of comment. And then Tuchel takes it on board and maybe is thinking, you know, that he's sort of kind of coupled that, not from a sort of team point of view, but more about sort of kind of what Bellingham sometimes does on the pitch.
Why he did it, we can only speculate. I think you could possibly read through it, and that element of intimidation is quite important, that he's talked about the pressure Jude Bellingham puts on other players. We may have realised in the last couple of games that England either are out of form or out of brilliant players, and they're going to have to change a lot of the team that did well for Gareth Southgate.
This guy is a very, very intelligent manager. He is super smart, super cool. He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's saying. And he's very much in command of what he says. He doesn't say something without thinking about it first. He doesn't make missteps or mistakes. He really doesn't. So he knows what he's saying, and he's trying to make a point there. And I just think perhaps that point has come across badly.
The next England camp, is there a conversation between the pair? Is there a conversation now between tonight or tomorrow between them to say, look, I may have overstepped them up. I don't see Thomas Tuchel doing that. Does Jude Bellingham now go away and, smart at being called potentially immature on the pitch? It's a lot of headaches that come from this.
I do think it's got potential here. I do think it's a bad misstep. I do think it's got a. Martin's right. It's not just one word out of place. It's a really thorough and lengthy examination of how Thomas Tuchel sees Jude Bellingham.
We're expecting the fireworks to come on the pitch and the Tuchel and develop this England team. They haven't happened. The last 2 games have been absolutely awful.
Part of the art of being an international manager, in my view, is different to being a club manager. I do think it's more about kind of almost being able to manage them and basically make sure that you sort of stay on side with them. All week, Thomas Tuchel has been talking about togetherness and team spirit and a bond, connections. Well, I have to say, comments like this are certainly not going to kind of, sort of strengthen and sort of kind of weld those stronger together, are they really? I think that's the point. And so I do feel as if, I'm not saying treat him with kid gloves, but just manage him sensibly.
Yeah, all their new signings are out here behind me. I think most of the new signings are actually in the group right at the end, the far group. You may be able to see new signings like Rayan Ait-Nouri, who they signed from Wolves. Also Rayan Cherki, who has arrived from Lyon with a big reputation. And another midfielder as well, Tiani Reinders, who they signed from AC Milan, who was voted the best midfielder in Serie A last season. But if you look at this training pitch at the moment, I mean, it is packed with all the star names in Manchester City's squad. Of course, the only player who's not here is Jack Grealish. But apart from Jack Grealish, you would have to say that this is arguably one of the strongest squads in the Club World Cup. And that is why Manchester City are one of the favourites to defend their title as world champions.
Yeah, it's not just new names on the playing side, is it, Carve? Pep Guardiola has added to his backroom staff as well.
Yeah, now we have 2 Peps at Manchester City. And if you're a Liverpool supporter, this one is going to get some getting used to because Pep Lijnders is somebody who worked alongside Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool for 9 years. He was alongside Jurgen Klopp for all those tumultuous title battles against Manchester City. But of course, he left Liverpool last summer at the same time as Jurgen Klopp. He went to manage Red Bull Salzburg. That didn't work out. He left Red Bull Salzburg, took a bit of time out, has been living back in Holland with his family. But I think a couple of weeks ago, he got a phone call from Pep Guardiola, who was looking for a new assistant coach. And after a few conversations, he decided that he couldn't really say no to Manchester City. So although it's a little bit strange seeing him here wearing Manchester City training kit, he is the new assistant coach at Manchester City. And I think that's just another sign that Pep Guardiola wants to change things up this summer. He's already refreshed his squad. He's also refreshing his backroom team as well. So they're not going to take lying down the fact that Liverpool won the title last season. And I think they are going to be taking this competition very, very seriously, which is why we see so many of their star names here out in Miami today.
Yeah, you said some of their star names. You mentioned the new signings, but also the more established players at Manchester City, because people forget that even before they bought these new players, that squad looked pretty formidable, didn't it?
I mean, absolutely. You can see in the near group here, Phil Foden training. I mean, Phil is somebody who missed the England squad, so he missed the last couple of games. I think he felt that he needed to take a break from football just to recharge his batteries. Obviously, he didn't have a great season by his high standards, so perhaps this can be a fresh start for him at City as well. And also, a player really to look out for in this tournament is Rodri. I think we can see him in the middle group there. He's somebody, of course, who was a massive miss for City last season, out with that serious knee injury. But he did come back and play for just a few minutes towards the end of the season, I think, in the game against Bournemouth. And he is being sort of advertised and marketed as one of the stars of this tournament, because let's not forget, he won the Ballon d'Or, so he's officially the best player in the world, and City will be absolutely delighted to have him back. And having watched him this morning, he seems to be totally fit, 100% fit, and he also seems to be in a very, very good mood, because so far this morning he's been the sort of clown of the Manchester City travelling party. In a nice sense of the word, sorry, not in the sense of the word, not in the sense of the word that offended Ange Postecoglou.
Yeah. Good save, good save. Listen, a trophyless season for City last season, of course, unless, of course, you count the Community Shield. But with that in mind, how important is the Club World Cup to City?
We've been getting mixed messages, I think, from Pep Guardiola about how important this tournament is. On the one hand, if you go back 18 months to when we had the last Club World Cup, which was in the old sort of shortened format in Saudi Arabia, Pep Guardiola and the City players took that very, very seriously. He made the point that, you know, it was incredible to think that Manchester City could become world champions, considering where they'd come from. So they fought really, really hard to become world champions in that tournament. Although I have to say that the quality of the opposition in that tournament in Saudi Arabia wasn't that great. They didn't really have to be at their best to win that. But I think this competition is going to be tougher because it's a bigger competition. There are more teams. There are teams like Real Madrid playing in it, like Bayern Munich, like Chelsea. But Pep Guardiola, I think, in the lead up to this tournament, I think in a couple of press conferences, seemed to suggest that this trip to the US was going to be pleasure as well as business. I think he was talking about all the great golf courses that are very, very close to where we are here at the moment. So I'm sure these City players will be relaxing as well. Obviously, Miami is an incredible city. There's so much to do. I'm sure it won't just be work. They will be having some downtime as well. But I think Pep Guardiola will be taking this tournament a little bit more seriously than he's perhaps admitted to in public, because I think it means a lot to him. And also, of course, the people who run Manchester City and the players, to be able to say that they are officially the best club in the world and they are the world champions.
Breaking news to bring you here on Sky Sports News, and Tottenham Hotspur have appointed Thomas Frank as their new head coach. They did it with an announcement on their website and their X page. Their X said, "We are delighted to announce the appointment of Thomas Frank as our new head coach on a contract that runs until 2028. Welcome, Thomas." The statement on the website went into more depth. It continued, "Thomas has extensive experience in English football, having joined Brentford in 2016, since becoming one of the longest-serving current managers in the Premier League. During his time at Brentford, he transformed the club, moving them up from the Championship to an established Premier League side, consistently and significantly outperforming expectations for an extended period of time." It continues, "In Thomas, we are appointing one of the most progressive and innovative head coaches within the game. He has a proven track record in player and squad development, and we look forward to him leading the team as we prepare for the season ahead." It finishes, "Thomas will be joined from Brentford by Justin Cochrane, the first-team assistant coach, Chris Haslam, the head of performance and first-team assistant coach, and Joe Newton, first-team coach analyst, with Andreas Georgsson, first-team assistant coach, arriving from Manchester United. That's after Ange Postecoglou was sacked after 2 years in charge of the club, despite leading them to Europa League glory, their first trophy after 17 years, and a place in the Champions League next season now for Thomas Frank to enjoy. But it was their league form that did it, wasn't it? They finished 17th, just a place above the relegation zone with 22 league defeats. Means that the board decided it was time for a change, and it'll be Thomas Frank to lead Tottenham Hotspur next season in the Champions League as they hope to climb up that Premier League table. Our reporter Michael Bridge is at the Spurs training ground with the full story.
So, Thomas Frank is the new Tottenham Hotspur head coach. Yes, it's taken a number of days after we reported earlier in the week that Spurs wanted him and he wanted Spurs. So why the delay? Well, very simple, because he wanted to bring important coaching staff with him, notably, and someone we mentioned earlier in the week, Justin Cochrane. Now, Cochrane used to be a coach here at under-16 level for Tottenham, but he's also a current England coach, and that's why I understand there's been a delay. Also joining Cochrane will be Chris Haslam, head of athletic performance at Brentford, and Joe Newton, a first-team analyst. So plenty of changes for Spurs. Spurs have said goodbye to a number of their coaches, as I said today, but it's going to be a number of changes. But they need changes in personnel as well for Thomas Frank. There's doubts about Heung-min Son's future. There's interest from Saudi Arabia. And my understanding is if Spurs receive an acceptable offer for Son, they will not stand in his way. The one key player they have to sort out is Christian Romero. Atletico Madrid very keen on him. Well, he was absolutely fantastic in the Europa League final against Manchester United, but he's expressed a desire to have a new challenge in the future. Whether that new challenge is next season, we will wait and see. Now, Thomas Frank, a very engaging character, an incredible job he's done at Brentford. Now, why would he leave Brentford, settled, completely secure, and join Tottenham Hotspur? Well, we've heard from Thomas Frank on a number of occasions on Sky Sports Monday Night Football, press conferences galore, and he talked about ambition, and he'll know when the time is right. But now, is the time right for him? Only he will know. But what a challenge he has in store. Why did Ange Postecoglou lose his job despite winning a trophy? Well, fourth from bottom, 22 league defeats. Spurs simply don't want any head coaches to put aside one competition, and he won't be able to next season, Thomas Frank, because it's not the Europa League next season, it's the Champions League, the pinnacle of club football, and we know the extended format there. And of course, they want to improve their league form, do well in domestic cup competitions. So it's a huge challenge for Thomas Frank. They call him the absolute training ground tactician. But Spurs won't be on the training field much because they've got so many games. So it's so intriguing to see. So another new era for Spurs, another new head coach. It was a collective decision at board level. They've got the person they've wanted, and that person is Thomas Frank.
Big news from the world of international football. Italy are set to appoint Gennaro Gattuso, the former Rangers midfielder, probably more remembered for his time at AC Milan, long stint there, as their new head coach, replacing Luciano Spalletti, whose last game in charge was Italy's 2-0 win over Moldova just 5 days ago. But they've been in pretty ropey form really much since the end of last year, losing 3 out of the last 5 games in that win over Moldova. In fact, the only one in that time. They went out of the Nations League at the quarter-final stage with a 5-4 aggregate defeat to Germany, and then really the one that really cost Spalletti his job, the 3-0 defeat to Norway just 8 days ago. And as a result, it is Gennaro Gattuso who is expected to replace him. As and when we get confirmation of that, we'll bring it to you here on
Off tonight with Lionel Messi trying to add yet another trophy to his glittering career as Inter Miami face the Egyptian Al Ahly at the Hard Rock Stadium, the home of the Miami Dolphins.
Bueno, creo que vienen equipos muy grandes de todo el mundo, el cual mueve mucha gente en todo el mundo, porque son equipos muy grandes, donde tienen jugadores muy importantes, donde a la gente le gusta ver, y bueno, es una primera vez, un torneo diferente, nuevo, y creo que es una linda oportunidad para ver a los mejores acá o a muchos de los mejores acá en Estados Unidos, y es es una linda oportunidad para disfrutarlo.
I think this kind of competition is important for every player, and the young players is good for them. Try to show their value into the pitch, because for the most of the people maybe they don't know how they play. So try to do our best. Try to show the fans, the supporters, and the people around the world what we can do.
Well, Mascherano, of course, played with the new Real Madrid boss, Xabi Alonso, at Liverpool, but after they became El Clasico rivals, he doesn't want his former teammate to do too well in Madrid.
One of the best players that I play next to him. So at the end, I don't wish the best, because he's in Real Madrid. He did really well in Leverkusen. I think he's going to be a really good coach for Real Madrid. I wish all the best for him, for his family. He's a nice guy that I had the pleasure or the privilege to play next to him for 3 years in Liverpool, and was fantastic.
Well, here are the team looking to stop Messi. Al Ahly come into the tournament after winning their third straight Egyptian Premier League title to extend their tally to a record 45 championships. They also hold the record of 12 for CAF Champions Leagues, making them Africa's most successful team.
Some more on Manchester City and the Club World Cup, where their 4 new signings have travelled to the US to be with the squad. Tiani Reinders, who was recognised as one of Serie A's top midfielders last year, his arrival coincides with Kevin De Bruyne's departure. He can't wait to work with Pep Guardiola.
Yes, that's also a big thing, of course. The best coach in the world, and I am very eager to learn new things here and the style of playing, and yeah, that's what I'm very looking forward to.
How would you describe your game? Because some fans in England might not be, might know much about how you play. What kind of midfielder are you, and what do you think you can bring to this City side?
I'm a box-to-box player who likes to carry the ball, to be also in the build-up part, and eventually to connect to the attacking part and try to find assists and goals. And yeah, that's what I want to bring here as well.
The build-up to the Club World Cup has been marked by questions over the competition's viability when it comes to competitiveness, with some of the major European sides financially dominating clubs from other confederations, including Auckland City, who face Bayern Munich this afternoon. Well, Auckland City are a semi-professional team. They play at a ground with a capacity of just 5,000. They have won 4 straight OFC Champions Leagues, but they are semi-pro, and some players are unable to participate as they couldn't get the time off work. And the cost of travel to the US is almost double the club's annual revenue.
First of all, I think you have to, because I know the story will be all about the fact that it's a semi-amateur team, and but it doesn't mean that they can't have good ideas and the right profiles in the right positions. And so I've watched it all, and it's been interesting to see the different settings in New Zealand. I don't know if the journalists have, but a football match there does have a totally different feeling. So it was interesting to see that. But I have a good idea of what they've done in recent games and what they've done in the past as well in big games. And I feel like we've prepared the team for this game like we've prepared any other game.
It's been a turbulent few weeks for Inter Milan. They missed out on Serie A to Napoli by just a point before being thrashed by PSG in the Champions League final. Simone Inzaghi has since left the club and been replaced by Christian Chivu, who will lead them into the Club World Cup.
I think we need to honor this competition, because this is what a team like Inter should do. This is what a team that represent this kind of competition should do. There are 32 teams all over the world representing a unique moment probably
the world soccer, because this is the first time this competition is happening. So everyone who's here is responsible for whatever they do, for whatever they try to achieve or they want to achieve. It's not easy because it's something new, because it's still the season, the last season, so it's not a new season. But we are here to do our best and to try to honor as much as possible, as good as possible, this competition.
As we mentioned, inter-season ended in heartbreak with that 5-0 loss to PSG in the Champions League final, followed by the news that manager Simone Inzaghi would leave the club for Saudi Pro League side Al Hilal. Chivu says his players must not focus on the difficult end to the campaign and should take heart from the journey to get there.
No problem, and I know what kind of human quality I have inside this dressing room, and I know what they can give. Of course, the disillusion of whatever happened in the end of the season, the expectations were high, but what I try to tell them is that the road, the thing that they have done, it's something special, it's something amazing. Of course, the objective is important to be reached, but we don't have to forget the journey, because the journey is very important.
We have to talk to you about transfers, Florian, while you're with us. A couple of players involved in the third-place playoff earlier being heavily linked with moves away from their current clubs, including Florian Wirtz and indeed Ryan Cherki as well. Let's talk about Wirtz first of all. Are you expecting him to be on the move soon?
Absolutely. I expect the medical will take place in the next days, as we expect the total agreement between FC Liverpool and Bayern 04 Leverkusen within the next 1, 2 or 3 days, as there has been a new offer, a fresh offer from Liverpool in the last couple of 2 days, as we have reported, and the total package is now almost 150 million euro, with a big package of possible add-ons included. We didn't get the confirmation 2 days ago for the full agreement, as some more details, some more figures has to be clarified, but Florian Wirtz is totally convinced that the deal will happen in the next couple of days, and then I'm sure that we can report about a done deal in the next week.
It is a busy time as well at Borussia Dortmund. Jamie Gittens, a target for Chelsea, we are hearing. What about from the Dortmund perspective, though? Do you think this is a deal that's going to get done?
Absolutely possible. I'm not convinced that Jamie Gittens will play the World Cup, the Club World Cup with Chelsea, as the first offer from Chelsea was rejected, and to our understanding, Borussia Dortmund demanding between 50 and 60 million euro guaranteed for Jamie Gittens to get the deal done. They are open to sell him, as Jamie Gittens has reached a total verbal agreement with FC Chelsea about a 6 or 7 years contract. So on the player side, it's all done with FC Chelsea, but there's no total agreement between Borussia Dortmund and FC Chelsea. We are expecting some more rounds of negotiations in the next days.
Some breaking news a bit earlier regarding Dortmund and indeed Sunderland, newly promoted Sunderland. They've agreed a deal with Dortmund for their player Jude Bellingham, of course following in his brother's footsteps, heading out to Germany and Dortmund. Why do you think they were so attracted, so keen to get this deal done for Jude Bellingham?
Well, honestly, a very difficult question, because he has many competitors in the central position at the Borussia Dortmund squad. Nevertheless, he's an absolutely dream target for Borussia Dortmund. There were many efforts, there were many talks, many negotiations. Aki Watzke, the super boss of Borussia Dortmund, he flew to the family. He was convincing them Then there was another meeting between the Bellinghams and Sebastian Kehl on Ibiza. So they were pushing a lot to sign him, to make him the decision to join Borussia Dortmund over Eintracht Frankfurt. Now the deal is done, as Sky UK has confirmed. There's a total agreement between Dortmund and Sunderland about a total package in the region of 38 million euro, and he also set to play the Club World Cup. He's a big talent, big footsteps, no doubt about it, because Jude Bellingham, he was a key player for Borussia Dortmund in the last couple of years. So let's see, we are excited to see him playing in the Bundesliga.
We want to talk to you about Arsenal as well, Florian, because they're, as we all know, keen to bring in a striker this summer. They've been linked with Benjamin Sesko from RB Leipzig. What's the latest on that one?
Yeah, very good feeling around the possible transfer of Benjamin Sesko to Arsenal. As we have revealed, there was also a meeting between Marcel Schäfer and Andrea Berta in London. There were ongoing talks in the last couple of 48 hours. As I said, very positive feeling, but still no full agreement between Sesko and Arsenal yet. But there were crucial developments about the personal terms starting from Friday. We expect more rounds of negotiations in the next couple of days, and RB Leipzig expecting the first offer from Arsenal also next week. And as we also have reported in our transfer update broadcast on Friday, we cannot speak about an 80 million release clause, because these are free negotiations right now. A very complicated release clause, and the clubs have to find an agreement between 80 and 100 million euro for Sesko. RB Leipzig very open to sell him. It's a very good atmosphere, positive atmosphere. The player is very respectful towards all the parties involved. I'm totally convinced that Sesko will play for Arsenal in the next season.
Is just going to continue. That win today gives them the confidence moving forward. I definitely think that Portugal is in the conversation with among the favorites for the 26 World Cup.
And welcome into the Golazo Network studios, everybody. I'm Nate Bucati alongside Stefano Fissaro. Just got done with a compelling Nations League final. Portugal 5-3 in penalties over Spain to lift the trophy. It was 2-2 after extra time, and in penalties, Portugal get it done. What's the biggest takeaway we have from this match?
The biggest takeaway is that everyone's thinking that Spain and France are the two best teams in Europe, and Portugal had something to say about it. They played level with Spain, with the Spanish side that everyone was favoring for this match, that have been really the story since they won the Euros and continuing on. This is a team that I think was expected to win. They were expecting to win. The superstars of Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal showing out. But it's a 40-year-old and Cristiano Ronaldo that gets the equalizing goal for Portugal. And it's that mix of the veteran leadership from a guy like Cristiano Ronaldo and a Bruno Fernandes, and you mix in a Vitinha, a Mendes, a Neves. These are players that are absolutely stellar in Europe, and they showed that they are one of the teams to be reckoned with when you're talking about World Cup favorites next year. Portugal announcing themselves and said, hey, we're here too.
And for all those big names you mentioned for Spain, it was a couple of guys from Real Sociedad who ended up with the goals on the Spanish side of things. Zubamendi in the 21st minute. Then there was the answer from Mendes in the 26th for Portugal. Oyarzabal gets the goal to make it 2-1 for Spain. And then that man, Cristiano Ronaldo. He did it in the semifinals. He did it again in this match. And Stefano, it's a really fascinating conversation with Ronaldo, because at this age, there are a lot of people saying, is he holding this Portugal side back by forcing himself into the lineup? You can't bench a guy like Cristiano Ronaldo, but he ends up with the goal in the semifinal. He ends up with the goal in this one. He had one touch inside the opponent's penalty area this entire match, but that one touch was the goal, and it was a heck of a finish as well. A clever finish, a goal scorer's finish. What do we say about the legacy of Ronaldo and what he's accomplished in this competition to add to everything he's already done in his career?
Yeah, second time they win the UEFA Nations League. He also won the Euros with Portugal. Look, you know, I think it is an easy conversation to have and say, well, this Ronaldo could be holding this Portugal side back.
From what, though? They just won.
That's what I'm saying. And every time he scores goals, he still finds a way to score goals. The man can score goals still, even at this age, at every level, and he's finding ways to do that. And again, he gets the biggest goal of the game in this one to level the score. A smart striker's goal where he's fighting off a defender, gives him just that little nudge to create the space and get his goal. So it's difficult to criticize him when he keeps doing it. I think that what you're seeing now is he's okay with being subbed off. He understands that maybe he can't play 120 minutes in a game like this when a trophy's on the line. He's understanding that. He's taking it a lot better than he used to in the past. And he was the biggest cheerleader on the sideline during that penalty shootout when he's watching his team and can't even watch at some point, has to have his head down because he's so nervous. You can tell how much he wanted it. You can't leave him off the pitch if he's still scoring goals for his national team. He wants to be a part of this team because he knows that he has enough talent to possibly threaten one of the top teams in the World Cup.
You talked about some of the young talent on this side, and there is young talent for this Portugal side. Guys that have now won trophies for club and country this year as well. As you mentioned, I think we come into this almost exactly a year away from the World Cup starting next year. Thinking about sides, rightfully so, like Spain and France. Maybe you throw England in there. Argentina, of course. Portugal belong in this conversation right now. Are they at that level, and will they be one of the favorites when they come to the United States, Mexico, and Canada in 12 months' time?
I think so. I do. And, I probably wouldn't have said that a couple of years ago, but when you see the way that this team has been able to develop and the players that are playing at the highest level, I mean, we look at the penalties alone. Ruben Neves, Nuno Mendes, Bruno Fernandes still doing at that level. Vitinha, what a year Vitinha has had, winning a treble with PSG, now winning with Portugal, the Nations League. They have so much young talent and a nucleus that has been playing together now for a little bit of time, where that continuity is just going to continue. That win today gives them the confidence moving forward. I definitely think that Portugal is in the conversation with among the favorites for the 26 World Cup, like you mentioned, next to Spain, France, maybe England, and Argentina as far as the big-time competitors to try to win the 26 World Cup.
Does this take anything away from what we think of Spain right now? Alvaro Morata misses the penalty. The fact that he's on the pitch at that time, I think maybe you wonder a little bit about. Does this take anything away from what we think of Spain right now?
No, it doesn't. And that's the other thing we have to mention, that Lamine Yamal was taken off the pitch, did not play after extra time, was not part of the penalty shootout. Nico Williams also taken off. You have to also remember that these players are just coming off a European season. There's a lot of not a lot of gas left in those legs when you're talking about how many games these players have played.
Portugal had a bunch of guys from PSG on the pitch today too, though, as well.
Exactly, without a doubt. There's a lot to kind of look into why they had to sub off some of the best players on both sides, right? It doesn't take away from what Spain is. Remember, Rodri wasn't a part of this team today. Rodri, the engine of that Spain midfield that makes everything go. We saw it, what him not being involved with Manchester City did to them this season. It doesn't take away from what Spain is. I will say this. Defensively, they've had issues. They've conceded a ton of goals. Even in the semifinal, they got off to that incredible start, 4-0 on top of France. They let France trickle right back into the game. They have had issues defensively conceding goals. That's something to look at with the Spanish side. They do have to figure out how to not give up so many goals in games. It's been now quite a few games where we've seen them just having issues conceding. So that's something to look at moving forward. And you saw it today, giving up that late goal in the second half to send it to extra time. So they need to work on that for sure.
Of course, there was also the third place match between Germany and France as well. And
no one wanted to play that match.
No one really wanted to play that match. But I'm also curious. I think we still think of, I don't know about you, I think we still think of France as a side that's capable of going and winning another World Cup. But Germany, some problems there, some challenges for a side that's historically been a contender at that level?
Yeah, I still think that they have a lot to figure out. I think today their lineup was a little odd. You had Florian Wirtz starting on the wing, not really playing at his natural number 10 position. They had a backup as far as their forward is concerned. Fulkrug, not exactly the best guy at that position. They still have a lot to figure out. They're not at that level, which is crazy to say when you're talking about a German side that throughout basically my entire life has been one of the best teams in the world. They're not at that level yet. They still have some things to figure out. Didn't have their full team. I think they really missed Jamal Musiala. But this France side, I mean, they have two teams. They have a team on the pitch, and they have a team that can win the World Cup on the bench, right? They have enough to field two different teams, and both of them have enough talent to win the World Cup. It is really impressive what they have. Not getting it done in the semifinal, but showed their class today and get third place in this tournament.